Hello, everybody. Brandon Smith here. I'm the Director of Music at San Jose Episcopal Church. Instead of talking about this coming Sunday's music, I'm going to talk about our music for the upcoming Evensong service that will be held Wednesday, November 1st at 7 o'clock p.m. Evensong is a sung liturgy of evening prayer. It most closely matches the evening prayer Rite 1 liturgy in the Book of Common Prayer, except the vast majority of the service, of course, is sung or in some way is musical. So I'm just going to be speaking about the repertoire for our upcoming Evensong service. A wide array of composers represented, distinctly mostly English in style with a bit of American music thrown in there, but of course all works together to create a cohesive liturgy. I'll start by talking about our prayers for the service. So there are many prayers as a part of the Evensong. What we know them as in the Anglican tradition is preces and responses. So the setting we'll be singing is by American composer Rachel Ahrens. Now, this setting is really unique in that it's not completely original. She's taken two well-known hymn tunes, one being Carlisle, which is by Charles Lockhart, and Hereford, which is Samuel Sebastian Wesley's melody. Rachel Ahrens has seamlessly woven them together for the chanted prayers that are part of this service. Rachel Ahrens was born in 1984, and she is a native of Wyoming. Grew up as a pianist, has played piano since she was 4 years old, studied piano, voice, and composition while working on her BA in French language and literature. She composes for her church choir, and where she sings. She calls herself actually a back row alto. And she lives in Virginia with her husband and stays busy as a real estate agent by day and also has two adorable little dogs. The hymn tunes for that, I'm taking one of them, Carlisle, which is in the 1982 hymnal several times. I'll be playing a prelude on that same tune by David Blackwell. David Blackwell was born in 1961. He has won many awards as a composer and as an arranger, a writer, as well as an editor. His educational choral and organ music is published in both the UK and the United States and has been performed across the world. He works as a freelance publisher for a few magazines, for UK music publishers, as well as writes for Choir and Organ magazine. Also, as a part of this service, we have the sung psalms. So the psalm appointed for the day is 34, verses 1 through 10. We'll be singing an Anglican chant setting by Edgar Day. Edgar Day lived from 1891 to 1983. Long life. Was an English organist and composer. He served as assistant to Eva Watkins at Worcester Cathedral, music master at College for the Blind in Worcester, music master at King's School in Worcester, and was conductor and accompanist of the Worcester Festival Choral Society and Orchestral Society. The canticles for this service are unique to the morning and evening prayer services. So following each reading, instead of singing a hymn, what we do is we sing a canticle. The traditional canticles for Evensong are the Magnificat and the Nunc Dimittis. So the setting we'll be singing, it's a pair of them by George Dyson. George Dyson lived from 1883 until 1964. He was an English musician and composer, studied at the Royal College of Music in London, and also was known for his service to the army during the First World War. He was a schoolmaster and a lecturer. Became a director of the Royal College of Music, the first alumnus of the RCM to become director. He instituted financial and organizational reforms, steered the college through the Second World War. He wrote in a pretty traditional idiom. When you hear his music, you think it sounds British. If you've listened to much British music, there are certain kind of devices and stylistic techniques employed by many traditional British composers from that period. It definitely reflected the music of his teachers like Perry and Stanford. His works were well known during his lifetime, but um, went through a very brief period where his works really weren't performed, really until the late 20th century. So, several decades after his death, we saw this big resurgence or renaissance of his music being performed. The anthem for this service I'm really excited to share. It is the text is "I saw a new heaven," the text from Revelation. The setting is by Malcolm Archer. Malcolm Archer is a performer or a composer, conductor, performer, organist, whose music we perform a lot at San Jose. He was born in 1952. He's English, but works now in America. Formerly, he was the organist and director of music at Bristol Cathedral, Wells Cathedral, and St. Paul's Cathedral, and he was also director of chapel music at Winchester College. The hymn for that service, we'll be singing hymn 287, For All the Saints. The tune, which we know well, is in the 1982 hymnal, Sine Nomine, by Ralph Vaughan Williams. The text is actually by an English Anglican bishop, William Walsham Howe. He was known as a bishop, Bishop Walsham Howe, and he was son of a solicitor, educated at Shrewsbury, attended a few other colleges in Oxford and Durham. He was ordained in 1846 and had a decades-long ministry as a parish priest, as well as curate throughout those years. In 1851, he became rector of Whittington and was at one point dean of Oswestry, and then became Bishop of Bedford for East London, and eventually Bishop of Wakefield. Ralph Vaughan Williams, of course, was the composer of that tune. He is a well-known English composer of operas, ballets, chamber music, secular and sacred vocal works, as well as orchestral compositions. Wrote 9 symphonies. He has an output that spans 60 years of music. So he had strong influences from the Tudor tradition, as well as was infatuated with English folk song. His music kind of marked this big break where English music took a turn away from the German style of the 1800s and really created this voice of English music in the early to mid 1900s. He was born to a reasonably wealthy family, and actually had a pretty progressive social life. He was pretty generous with his time and with his energy. He wanted to be of service to others, and he also believed in the accessibility of music. His beliefs very similar to Leonard Bernstein. He believed that music should be as available as possible to everybody. So he wrote works that were not just for professionals, but also for student performance and amateur performance. He, interestingly enough, didn't really find his voice as an artist, as a writer or a musician, until he was in his late 30s. So it was really with his studies with Maurice Ravel, the French composer, that helped him really truly create a voice for himself in the first decade of the 1900s. Definitely among some of the best-known symphonists or symphony writers. Wrote in a wide array of styles, has music that might be stormy or brooding, as well as very serene, and it's also a lot of triumphant music. Wrote music for state occasions, wrote selections for the Queen of England, has many well-known pieces, Fantasia on a Theme by Thomas Tallis, The Lark Ascending, both from the early 1900s, wrote a ton of hymns, a ton of folk song arrangements, as well as a lot of very large choral pieces. Wrote 8 stage pieces, and his operas didn't really go on to be known as popular pieces, but he wrote a ballet. That ballet was a mask for dancing, like Mask is in Masquerade. That was later on in his life in the 1930s. Now, that ballet, unlike his operas, has still remained pretty popular and is still being performed even today. Finally, we'll hear a postlude. The postlude, the tune is based on our hymn, Sine Nomine, so For All the Saints, but the arrangement is actually by Paul Leddington Wright. Paul Leddington Wright, still living, was born in 1951. Um, he is known as a conductor, as organist, choir master. Um, was born in England. Got his first appointment actually at the age of 15, so very young in his life, and did his first organ tour of the USA as an organ recitalist at age 17. Um, was organ scholar at St. Catherine's College in Cambridge. Studied with the well-known writer David Wilcox. Um, Graduated from Cambridge. He went on to freelance for many years, and also is known, interestingly enough, as a music director of musical theater productions in the UK. So he's directed things like Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat. He's done Oliver, a lot of really iconic pieces from the British repertoire, and that pretty much sums up our music selections for the service. The readings, if you want to look ahead, are Revelation 7, 9 through 17. The Psalm is 34, verses 1 through 10. Also reading from 1 John 3, verses 1 through 3, and then the Gospel reading is Matthew 5, verses 1 through 12. Should be a really beautiful service. I hope to see many of you there. It has the potential to be a very moving liturgy. We'll hear the names of parish members who have died in the past year. They'll be sung as with bells ringing as a part of the prayers at this service. And then, I don't know what more to say. There is going to be a reception after the liturgy, a very simple, small reception, but just a time together after taking the time together to remember our lost loved ones through song. So hopefully we'll see you there. If you have any questions, I'll be available after church on Sunday, as I always am. Hope you have a great week. I'll see you soon.